Hello everybody. Welcome to the May Stamp of the Month free project assembly video. I'm going to show you how to put together your free project that was for this month. May Stamp of the Month is Little Stinkers, so you're going to work with your little skunk. So you need your Stamp of the Month, and I'm going to run through a couple of things that you need to grab before we get going. And I'm going to put together this card with you, and then I think from there you will be fine to assemble the rest of them. I did want to share one thing though before we get going. This just dropped today, so I'm going to show you. If you are at all interested in becoming a maker, I would love to have you join my team. This just started today. If you join for $25, Close to My Heart will give you $25 in CTMH cash, which is free product. And so ding, 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 you got it. It is free to join right now. You spend $25 to join, but you get it right back in product. So it is a wonderful time to join. Thought I would just mention that. And so here is our first card. Those of you who ordered in the first 2 weeks of May, placed your order that included the Stamp of the Month, you got the project pack in the mail, or you got it from me. And if you haven't ordered yet, but you're going to order the Stamp of the Month, you'll be getting that project pack either in the mail or if you see me, and you'll be able to assemble these. So there are 5 cards, there's 5 skunks, so I thought I had to use them all. They're so cute. I just wanted to run through what you're going to need to grab before we get going so that you've got what you need to put the cards together. Okay, so we have Intense Black stamp pad. I really recommend that. I'll talk to you in a minute about why that is, but if you don't have it and all you have is black, that'll work. We'll just need to be a little careful with our coloring. And then the 3 colors, Harbor, Paprika, and Rosemary stamp pads. So those are the ones you'll need to grab. Again, Intense Black would be the best if you have it. And then if you're using the tri-blend markers, I used Alpine Green and Brown Gray shades and Burnt Orange blend. So Alpine Green blend, Brown Gray shades, and Burnt Orange blend. You'll need those 3 markers. If you're using something else, just do a little color swatch and kind of match the colors in our Hey Handsome papers that are used on the cards. You'll also need your blending brush that you've been using with green. You don't have to wash these each time, so if you just stick to a color family, it should be fine. You just color off when you're done, and so it should be fine, but if you stick with the same color family, that's helpful. Just a black marker and or journaling pen, your white gel pen, and I used Liquid Pearls Coral. You could also use a Stickles kind of orangey color if you wanted to, or if you don't have those, you could just use the Burnt Orange blend marker where I used that. I'll show you that when we're making the card. You'll need to grab, of course, your scissors, something to clean your stamps, and some 3D foam tape or thin 3D foam tape if you like dimension on your cards. So in your pack, again, there's 5 cards, and we're going to start with the one that says number 1 up in the corner. That's your first card, and if you pull that out, you will see that we have the card base with your pieces inside, and then I have a scrap paper on top with just a post-it notepad. So we're going to set that aside for a second. That's where we're going to stamp. We're going to do one thing here, and then we can move on. This piece of it looks kind of tweedy paper from the Hey Handsome papers. We are just going to scissor distress around the edges, and you can probably see on this card around the edges it kind of looks whitish, and that's just scissor distressing. So if you're not familiar with it, if you have a distressing tool or your scissors, you just rub your scissors along the edge. Be careful because the scissors are sharp, and it just kind of gives it a little tiny bit of a frayed look. And it exposes, what it does is exposes the white core of the paper. So 4 sides all the way around, just give it a little distressing. And after I'm done with that, I like to flip it over and then just either use my finger or a bone folder or a block, anything you've got, to just kind of flatten it back down again. So that just exposes the white core of either cardstock or backgrounded texture paper, either one. And it just makes a nice little white border around there. So I like that look. All right. We have our Post-it notepad with the white daisy scrap. And I talked to you about the intense black and the black. The reason for intense black is because if you use a marker, which I did on the nose of the skunk, I colored his nose kind of in the orangey color. If you do that, the regular black ink could smear. If you use the intense black, that's not going to happen. So whichever is your preference, to be super careful if you can, you're gonna need to do that if you use the black ink. However, down here on the stump, I colored that with the marker and I colored in the leaves. And so really the intense black is kind of necessary because otherwise this will run when you color it. And the same thing with these three little sprigs here of leaves. I used the intense black so that I could color it with the marker and it won't smear. Okay, so that's why we need that. So we're gonna go ahead and take our little skunk, our first little skunk, which is this guy with the tail that is kind of wrapping around him. So we're gonna take him and we're gonna use the scrap paper. We're just gonna put him on there. I've got the intense black. Just set your Post-it note aside for right this second. I've got the intense black ink. I'm just gonna ink him up. And I'm gonna take my foam that came with the stamp, put it underneath, and I'm just gonna stamp him on here. Okay, so there he is. And then I am gonna need these three sprigs of leaves. So what I'm gonna do is take him off. I'm gonna grab that from the stamp pad, from the stamp sheet. I'm gonna put that on here and I need three of those. 1, 2, space them a little bit because you are gonna cut them out. 3. So there's the 3 sprigs for the leaves that we're gonna need. Clean that off, put it back on the sheet. We're done with that for now. And so we've got our stamping done. I'm gonna just color in the nose really quickly on the skunk, just so that that's done. So there's his little nose. It's orange, and for now I'm gonna set this aside while I show you the rest of this. We are gonna use a technique called masking on this stump of this tree. And there's a couple different things you can do with masking that I'm gonna show you. But the first thing that you need to do is to take the stamp of the stump and you are gonna put that on your block and we are gonna make the mask. We're gonna take the Post-it note. We want the sticky, we wanna know where the sticky is because that's where we wanna put the mask. So my sticky edge is down here on the bottom. What we need to do is stamp that in black, or it doesn't actually, this doesn't matter what color ink you use when you're making your mask. I'm just gonna use black so it shows up for the camera. And then down right on the edge where it's sticky, that's where I'm gonna make my mask because I want the mask to have sticky so that it'll stay still when I'm doing my other stamping or sponging, which is what we're gonna do in a second. So we're just gonna clean that off and put that back on the sheet. Now we need to do some fussy cutting, and it's gonna be pretty particular here that you do this cutting pretty carefully with this mask. What I will say about this though is once you have done this, you've got the mask forever. You're only gonna need to make one of these. You'll keep it with the stamp set so you can use it over and over and over. I have lots of masks that I've had for years. I just use them over and over every time, but it does need to be trimmed out very carefully. And when you trim it, usually when we hand trim, I say to you, leave a little border around the stamping. In this case, we are going to cut right on the edge of the stamped image. So you need to be really careful when you do this, that you're getting close, right close to the edge of the stamped image. And you guys know, probably you've heard before, it's easier to turn the paper than it is to turn your scissors. Keep your scissors still and just turn the paper. So I've already made obviously I've made the mask to do the cards, but I'm gonna make another one with you now. So if you're cutting your mask, just be very careful to cut right along the edge of the line. And there's two things we're going to do with this mask. We are going to do some sponging, and then we are going to go, I'm going to teach you how to do another technique with masking. We'll use the same mask. Again, you only need to cut this once, so if you're thinking, I'll never do this because I won't cut this out every time, you don't have to. You're only cutting once. And it needs to just be done very carefully. I'll just take the time, since we're sitting here cutting, just to remind you too about the May is National Scrapbooking Month. So we had the National Scrapbooking Day workshops, and those were really fun. I know a lot of you have already enjoyed those, but we also have some National Scrapbooking Month papers called Dream Maker that are so pretty, kind of a watercolor effect on the papers. They're really pretty colors. And those are still running all month during May, of course, while supplies last. I always put that disclaimer in there. But they will run all during May. So we're just hand trimming out really carefully our little image here. And again, it's easier to turn the paper probably than it is to keep turning your scissors. And really carefully trim that out. It's got to be done along the whole image if we're gonna, for one of the techniques. Otherwise, like we're gonna do the sponging on the card, we're gonna sponge that green. And the reason we're doing the mask is so that the stump doesn't get sponged with the green. So it has to be trimmed really carefully. And once you're done with this, you will have it forever. You won't have to worry about doing it again, but you need to do it that one time so that we can have it to use forever. I hope everybody had a nice Mother's Day yesterday. My family went down to Keuka Lake, to the mansion at Keuka Lake. It used to be called Esperanza, and we had brunch, and it was wonderful. It was such a pretty day. I hope everybody got out and had a nice day with your families. It was such a beautiful day to be outside. I was happy. I thought, oh, anybody that scheduled a picnic or whatever is in good shape today, which is nice for a change in this area. So I'm just trimming out really carefully my little mask, and almost done. It's kind of a tedious little thing, but once we're done, you'll appreciate why we do this, and you'll hopefully have a lot of fun with it in the future. That looks good. Oops, I got one part of my leaf here that I didn't do. All right, so just cutting that out. And so I'll get rid of my little scraps here. And we're gonna take the piece of white daisy, it goes in the middle here, and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do with this mask. So I want to do this coloring with this green ink here, and I don't want to color the stump with the green. I'm gonna have that be my brownish color. But so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stamp the stump, get him back here, and I'm just gonna use the intense black because I am gonna do this with marker. And since I'm using marker, that could smear just the regular, you know, dye-based, water-based ink. So I'm gonna use the intense black, and it's up about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just gonna ink that up, and I'm gonna stamp my stump. I hope my head's not in the way. About 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. So there it is. And what I'm gonna do with the mask, again, it should be sticky on the back because we put that down on the sticky side of the Post-it note. I'm gonna take that mask and I'm gonna place that right on the stump image that we just stamped. So it's gonna look like this. Hope everybody can see that well. So there's our stump. No ink is going to transfer onto there because we have it covered up with the mask. I'll move this up here. Take your rosemary ink, and I'm just going to take the blending brush, and I just want to give this a little color. So with your blending brush, tap it a little bit, and then I always recommend, this is just a scrap paper, just try it and see if you think, oh, that's going to be too dark, you know, you can brush a little bit off first and then try it. It's always easier to add more color and more color and more color. If you go too dark from the beginning, then you're kind of committed. So I just take that, wipe it off a little bit. We've got our mask stuck on there, and then I just kind of went up from the bottom, putting some color on there. Just putting a little bit. Again, it's easier to go, you know, to do more and more and more than it is to start out dark. So just starting out really light. And it's almost like maybe you can't even see that it's doing much, but trust me, it is. So our mask is on there, protecting our little stump so it doesn't get green because we don't want that. And come in a little bit from the side too, and the bottom. And I like that darker edge, so you can even, you know, you can even rub that on there a little bit if you want to. There you can see how much it differs, the color. Okay, so I'm happy with that. That's about what I want. That's what I was looking for. So now we can take our mask off, and the stump is still white. The stump didn't get colored when we did that sponging with the blending brush. The stump stayed white. That's what we wanted to have happen. I'm going to show you another use, and I'm just going to do it right here on my scrap paper. Okay, so I'm just going to take some black ink for now, just so it's easy for you to see. If you want to give the appearance that something is behind another image, like on this card, our skunk is actually popped up with foam tape standing on the stump. But let's say you wanted maybe something poking out from behind. You wanted something to appear like it was coming from behind. You're going to stamp the image that you want in the front, okay? And then we're going to cover that up with the mask. Cover it right on the line, you know, right on the stamped image. And then let's say we wanted a little dragonfly. Let's say we want this dragonfly coming out from behind there. We want it to look like it's behind there. Or we could even use the skunk, but we'll use this dragonfly. So I want this dragonfly to look like he's coming up from behind there. So I stamped my image, put the mask on it, and now I'm gonna stamp this here, and I want it to look like he's coming from behind. So I've got the mask on, and then when I take the mask off, do you see his tail and his wings are behind the leaves and behind the stump? So if you want to have an image in the foreground, you stamp that image, put your mask on, then you stamp whatever you want behind it, take it off, and there's the rest of his tail, and there's the part of his wing. But now it looks like he's behind the stump, coming from behind. You could have the skunk coming out from behind the stump. So it's just, that's what we do with masks. It's a way to make kind of a layered look. So I'm gonna set the mask aside for now, but that's two different things that we can do with masking. It's a really neat technique. So we've got our little guy, and I'm gonna use the brown gray shades marker, and I'm gonna do the stump, and then the leaves I'm gonna do in that alpine green marker. So if you wanna go ahead and color, again, I start with the light and then I kind of color the whole thing, and then I can go back and add dimension. This is really easy because it's got those lines on there you can kind of follow to add dimension on this one. So I just kind of do all over. I'm not like super fussy about the coloring. Some people are so good at it and they spend a ton of time and it looks beautiful. And watch out for your leaves there. You don't want to color them brown. You want to do those with green. So just be careful when you come down along the side of the stump there. There's a little piece though in here that I color. And then if you want to add some dimension, you certainly can go around the outside there to add a little color, a little darker color to the stump, maybe around the top here, maybe follow those black lines a little bit to give it some dimension. Again, I'm not super colorer, but it is fun and it's a great technique. Great fun if you're into coloring. So I just gave that a little color. Now I'm going to use the alpine green. I use the darkest for my leaves, but if you want to do, if you want to do some dimensional coloring, you can definitely use the 3 colors. So I'm just coloring my leaves here. And while I've got this marker out, I will color the ones on the scrap paper too. The skunk, all we needed was just his nose colored, but the leaves have to be done. Oops, I missed a little bit of my stump there. You can go back and do that if you need to. Fix that up a little bit. I'll just go back with this and do this little part that I missed. There we go. So there is our piece that has the stump. We're already prepared. I did do these 3 sprigs with the leaves, so I'm going to go ahead and do that since I've got the marker here. These are pretty easy to color. They're just kind of circles. You're just kind of going to color them in. And I popped those behind that white daisy piece when I assembled the card. I don't know, I just thought it added a little bit of those black and white. That black and white zip strip is so cute, I thought, with this, but it is kind of bold. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll just cover a little bit of that up with a little sprig of leaves. And I'm just kind of going fast here, and I swear as I get older, the hardest part of getting older is the eyesight issues, I think. It's one of the things that drives me crazy. So I colored my leaves in here. And again, the skunk and the leaf sprigs need to be fussy cut. So, you can spend your time with this. I really, especially with cards, I hate to say that, but I really don't spend a ton of time. I just kind of wing around the outside, not right on the stamped image. I kind of go to the sides, kind of like if you look at a sticker sheet, the stickers they don't go right to the image. A lot of times it has a little white border. I do the same, just kind of roughly go around there, but you need him trimmed out really carefully. We're gonna sit him on top of the stump so he looks cute up there. So here he is, just kind of little edge there, little white edge to our skunk. Again, colored his nose. And then we need these little sprigs of the leaves. And this, again, I did not cut these super carefully. Just kind of, you know, in and out a little bit, just sort of close, but not super close to it. But you can spend your time, you know, you can pause this if you need to, and you can spend time cutting closely if you want. Or you could leave them off altogether. Either way. These are going to be tucked. You don't need to really do the stem on the leaves because they're going to be tucked in behind the piece of white daisy paper that we stamped on. These sayings are so cute with this stamp set. I love them. They're so cute with the skunk. And I chose to, I've seen a lot of artwork with this skunk stamp set, but a lot of it's very flowery and pinks and yellows and bright colors. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick with the Hey Handsome. That's the feature this month. And I'm going to do these. And I think, you know, I think I would even use these as, I hate to say it, you know, pigeonhole things, but masculine cards or boy cards. I would use these for boys. Some people don't like pink on the cards if it's a boy. I get it, but I thought I'd stick with the Hey Handsome papers and just kind of color these in those same colors. All right, so if you've got your sprigs cut out, again, I'm not super careful with this, especially with cards. I just kind of do my best. So I've got my 3 little sprigs and my skunk. The only other thing I need on here is the saying. I put "Sometimes Life Just Stinks" on this one from the Stamp of the Month. And I did that in the paprika ink. So put that on there. If you like to line up your stamps on your block really straight, you can use the lines that are on your multi-purpose mat and just make sure that it's straight on there. And then there's an engraved line on your block. Just make sure also that that is lined up with one of the lines on your mat. And then I used paprika, so we're gonna pull that over. It's about I would say a half an inch down from the top of the white paper. So we're just gonna stamp that there, and I hope I'm not blocking you. But there's our sentiment on there. Sometimes life just stinks. And one more thing that we're gonna add to this card. I thought this little grass or these little flowers down on the bottom were cute. I just used that same Alpine Green Blend marker, and I think I used like the middle color. Maybe I used the darkest. I guess I used the darkest color of that, and I just made some make a V with, you know, just a little V. Just here and there on your card. You don't need 500 of those little sprigs, but just here and there, just some little sprigs. Kind of looks like grass or what have you. Just kind of, you know, all over, however many you like. So those are our little grass, and we're ready for assembly. So we're gonna take the card base, we'll just move these guys out of the way for a second. This is super easy. Gluing. We're gonna take your card base. This is paprika cardstock, and I used it on the dark side. So you'll put the adhesive on the light side, and then you will put this on the dark side. And if there's any, I like to err on the side of too big instead of too small. So if you open up your card and you see that there's a little bit, you know, I got a little bit too much there, I can just easily put my scissors against there and I can trim it off. So if it looks like it's too big, you can go ahead and do that. Trim it right off of there. And hopefully yours are pretty close to exactly the size, but again, I like to err on the side of having too much instead of having too little. And then that's fine, so I can just get rid of those. Put that down, take that woven piece that we did the scissor distressing on, and that is going to be centered on the card. And then we're going to take our 2 zip strips. I cut these so that they would match, I hope. So we're going to take our 2 zip strips and our white piece that we've got prepared. And it's going to be about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around here. So I will just make sure that's lined up. I don't want to glue this down underneath there. So we're gonna just put our little strips on there, and this one. So you're gonna put your little black and white zip strip along the side of the white daisy prepared piece. And then I'm turning these little sprigs of leaves over, just putting a little bit of adhesive on each one of those. And I just kind of stick it in behind there so that it's sticking out to the side. Any way you like it. And if you want more of these or you don't want these at all, that is of course fine. So just stuck those under there. So we've got that all set. The only thing left to do, we've got our little guy that I am going to put a little bit of foam tape on him. I'm kind of heavy-handed with the foam tape, but however much you like. I always figure if I'm doing it, I might as well do it to last and have it not crush down. Especially, it's not as important in cards because you're probably not gonna have those crushed in an album, but with scrapbooking, I'm pretty heavy-handed with the adhesive. So we have our card, and I've got the foam tape behind the skunk. I just want him to sit on the stump there. So wherever you like him to be. And then I did include, you've got a little bag of embellishments with your pack that you got. So this is the black hearts. We're just gonna take them off of there. I do this with my scissors, however you like to do it. I've got the big one that's gonna go up here on the top. And just before you place that down, make sure you've got it where you want it. I've got that up at the top. I have the little tiny one next to the word stinks. Just do it with my finger. And then I've got the middle size one over here on the other side. So that is our card, and you learned a couple masking techniques. I did do a little, with my black marker, I drew some little corners just because I thought it kind of looked plain. If you want to do that, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I just kind of drew some corners, and I did a few little dots there. Just kind of looked a little plain, so I did that, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So that's the corner treatment. And the only other thing, I took the white gel pen, and his eyes looked kind of bold to me. So with the white gel pen, I just did little white dots. It just kind of gives it a little accent. And I put some little white dots inside the black, the eye. And then down here, you can either leave this as just looking like grass, or this is where you could take your liquid pearl and just put a couple little dots of the liquid pearl. It kind of looks like little flowers. If you're doing this, you know that you have to let it dry, sit out to dry. Just looks like little flowers along the bottom, but if you don't want flowers, you certainly could leave that off. And if you don't have liquid pearls or stickles, just take your burnt orange blend marker and just, put a little dot on top of each sprig there that you drew by hand. Okay, so that's the first one. And now what I think I'm going to do, I've never done these free projects before. Well, I have, but I'm going to start doing them monthly now. And I don't think I'm going to run through the assembly on each card, but I would love your feedback. If you would rather have me do each card or each project right through from beginning to end, I definitely will do that. But if not, I will probably just run through and do the instruction. This card here, the papers, you've got them all cut. Again, you have a scrap piece for the skunk to stamp him and hand trim. On this card, I did do that same sponging technique along the bottom here with the rosemary ink, same as we did before with the blending brush, just moving up from the bottom, making that little green border. Make sure when you stamp your stump first in the black, you put your mask on it so that it's not going to get colored when you do the green sponging. So you're going to stamp your stump, put your mask on. Now you're going to do your sponging to put the green. You'll take that off and color the stump and the leaves. This guy you need to stamp on the scrap and cut out. This dragonfly I did stamp right on the piece of paper. That's not popped up. So I used intense black to stamp the dragonfly, and then I used the burnt orange blend marker to color his wings. Again, if you're just using black, those wings, the lines in those wings are going to smear. So that's why we say the intense black for coloring with marker. And then this one, I used Harbor ink for the sentiment. Stinkin' cute. Did the same treatment on the skunk. Did his nose with the burnt orange marker, and I did do a little white daisy dot in the middle of his eye. So that was the second one. The third one, same thing again. We're going to stamp the stump. You're going to take your mask and put your mask on the stump, and then do your blending brush with the rosemary up from the bottom. Take that off. You have a scrap of mink and a scrap of white. You'll stamp the skunk in black, hand trim him. You'll also, on this card, I don't know if you can see the dimension, you'll stamp the dragonfly on the little mink scrap in intense black, and then color his wings with the burnt orange marker. And then this one, the I Stink at Goodbye sentiment, is stamped in rosemary, the same color that we're doing the sponging. And then I did the same little treatment with the little flowers, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. So that's that one. And then this one, I did not do the sponging. You certainly could go ahead and do that if you wanted to. You have your scrap of white daisy to stamp the skunk. And again, now this one has flowers on the actual skunk stamp and leaves. So you really need the intense black or this will smear. So that's just a tip. And then I just drew around the outside with my black marker. That's just, I just thought it looked nice. If you don't want that, you don't have to have it. But I did pop up the mink square, and I did pop up the skunk. This one says, welcome little stinker. And again, I used the Harbor ink. Harbor's kind of like a blue-gray. It's a pretty color. So there's that one. And then this one, again, use your intense black. There are flowers you need to color so that, you know, it doesn't smear. Stamp that on this white scrap, cut it out. I did do the sponging with the blending brush and the rosemary ink on this piece of mink cardstock. On that one, I thought it looked cute. This one says, I smell a birthday, and that's in Harbor. These papers are just layered one after the other on the card. And I think that you will have no trouble with any of that. I'll put these out here again so you can see them. But again, there are photos on my blog, Facebook, and Instagram if you're looking for closer pictures of the cards. So you learned masking. We did some scissor distressing. Just to remind you with the masking, we did the stump, we covered it up, and we brushed, and we didn't want the stump to be green, so that's why we masked it. The other way you can use a mask, whatever you want in the front of your image, you stamp first. So I wanted the stump, I masked the stump, and then I stamped the dragonfly because I wanted it to look like he was coming from behind the stump. And then I took that off, and it looks like he's coming out from behind. So that's another reason to use the masking. We could have had the skunk popping up from behind the, maybe I'll do that one more time so in case you're trying to get the hang of that. Move these out of the way. And I'll show you one more time with that. So let's say we wanted we want the stump in the front. So we've got that there. We put our mask right over the same line where we stamped that. And let's pick one of these little guys. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna use the plain one. So let's say here we wanted the skunk kind of hiding behind that. I'll use a different color. Maybe it'll be easier to see, even though it's a skunk. I'll use a different color ink. I've got paprika on here. So I want the skunk to look like he's popping out from behind that stump. So let's see, let's put him like here. Take the mask off. You can see where the ink went on the mask. Now he looks like he's behind the stump and the greenery there. So when you want something to look like it's behind something else, stamp the foreground image, mask it, and then stamp the background image. It's a cool technique. So that is the May Stamp of the Month projects. One more time, if you have already placed your order this month and you have your project, you can go ahead. Otherwise, if you're ordering in the second half of the month, you will probably get your pack of project cards in the mail, and you can refer back to this video for assembly. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day. Bye.